I would like to read to you Matthew 19:4.
Yes.
This is Jesus speaking. He said, "And he answered and said unto them, Have you not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and
Yes,
female?"
yes.
So Jesus is saying the male and female, Adam and Eve, were created at the beginning.
Yes.
Yet you're speaking about a 13-point-something billion year difference. Can you explain that, please?
Well, if you look at Genesis chapter 1, it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." And then it focuses on the earth in the next verse, and it tells us what are the characteristics of the earth at that time. It says it was without form and was void. It had no life. So if you're going to say that the words of Jesus meant that God put man on the earth in the beginning, then you're saying he put him on the earth at the time that the earth was without form and was void, having no life. So it's contradicting what it says in Genesis chapter 1. In Genesis chapter 1, it says that he went through a big process, at least 6 days, if you choose to take the view that those are 6 24-hour days, before he put man on the earth. So there wasn't man at the beginning, it was man at least 6 24-hour days later. In our view, of course, it's quite a bit of time later than that. And so I would come to the conclusion then that when Jesus says that man was made from the beginning, he's talking about that in a broad sense. He's not meaning for us to take those words and to conclude that somehow at that beginning spoken of in Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 was when man was created on the earth. No, it was at least 6 days later. So we already have a problem with comparing those words with Jesus, what Jesus said, and concluding that what Jesus meant was that man was at the beginning. No, man wasn't at the beginning. He was at least 6 days later, and we would argue many days later than that. I don't know if that helps, but I could just comment on another point that people make, in that they argue about the fact that on day 4 it says that the sun and the moon were made. How is that possible? The earth was here before that time. The sun and the moon is in the 4th day. We would argue, no, the sun and the moon was there all along, but was not visible from the earth. And I ask the question of people who argue that way, when it says in Genesis chapter 1 that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, what do you visualize in your mind? Here's Moses speaking about what God has done. And I imagine the person who's listening to Moses says up, in the beginning, God made the heavens. That's the stuff we see before us. And then he made the earth. That means that the heavens were there when the earth was made. That means the sun was there, and the moon was there, but we know that the earth was covered in water. We know that both scientifically, and we know that from Scripture. It says the whole earth was covered by water, and there was a thick cloud layer around it. So for the surface of the earth, you couldn't see the sun and the moon. And it wasn't until the 4th day of creation that you were able to see clearly the presence of the sun and the moon that had already been there, but God made them visible. So that's the viewpoint that we take and the argument that we make. Now, again, I emphasize that this is a perspective, an interpretation of Scripture and of science where and tonight I'm trying to make a case, an argument in favor of it. There are Christians who don't accept that, and hey, that's fine. We agree to disagree, and we still fellowship with one another.